What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Witch's Craft. I'm your friend Tequila Joe. Don't adjust the streams. I really am this brown. Also joined by Gwen, our fearless leader, our awesome person that is running the show, and also the owner of Avalon Visions. So, Gwen, say hello. Tell us what you got going on this week.
Hi, I am. I'm here at the shop, and yes, I am really this white. So woohoo! Uh, and getting whiter. Summer's ended. We're not doing a whole lot. I'm just kind of doing the same thing. I was struggling with my website in the wake of the eclipse. I think that was kind of a little bit interesting, and it's up and running again. Yay, it's really up and running. We have the migration has completed, and it is fully functional, and for a while there I had myself in complete panic, but running. So other than that, that's what we're doing this week. Is we're doing things that go bump in the night. And oh, there are so many different types of things that go bump in the night.
And we want to
Well,
give a lot of credit to our garage goblin, who actually came up with this week's topic. So, yay! Thank you. You are awesome. You are amazing. Thank you for being the inspiration. So,
It's not my
um,
fault.
it's not your what?
I said it's not my fault. I was left unsupervised.
Yeah. But sometimes that's a good thing.
that is a
Anyway,
very good thing. Yes. So, okay. So yes, we are covering cryptids today. I'm going to go into a little bit of the concepts, the ideas as to what's the difference between the cryptids and where they come from and the cultures. So there's quite a bit of a difference between, say, what's an icon of folklore versus what is the cryptid. And I'm not going to give any spoilers up front. I'm not going to give any hints. We'll go into that in a little bit. So, uh, when you have some ideas about this, though,
well,
what was it that you wanted to tell us?
well, I am always of the opinion that we certainly don't know a lot about the universe around us. We just know a little tiny bit, and they're constantly discovering new creatures in the ocean, things that we thought were extinct. So I think a lot of these things are legitimately out there. Some of them, of course, are, may have been out there, for centuries until they became the part of myths and legends as things became extinct. Now, one thing I want to say is there's a very big difference between believing that these things, including aliens, probably exist. It's very self-centered to think we're the only ones in the universe that are intelligent. So I do think there's a very big difference between believing that we're not alone and that there are things we do not understand versus thinking that everything is a government conspiracy and the government is hiding it. I think there are legitimate researchers out there trying to find the answers, and maybe the government may have some ideas about some of this stuff that we don't, because maybe they've discovered some things, but I don't think everything is a government conspiracy. I think if we don't know something, it's because maybe we just can't find it, and that's the crux of it. So I find it quite fascinating, actually. And at one point, I went to a cryptid convention where I don't think the evidence presented was very well researched. Deers lick car windows. It doesn't have to be a Yeti or a Bigfoot, but they swore it was. So I mean, I look at the window. That looks like a deer went and did a salt lick up a window. But if you're from the city, how would you know that? And I mean, I just happen to know that. I kind of thought that's what it was. But I reserve judgment. I do not know. So I'm going to find this interesting. And this was not my good week for doing research. So I'm going to pass this mostly to Joe, but I'll do some commenting on this. I was on the
I mean,
fence.
when you want when you want government facts and like all that stuff, the conspiracies. I mean, Project Blue Book. There you go. there's that. I mean, obviously we know for a fact now Area 51 is there. It's a thing. It was always um this thing of controversy. Like, did it exist? Did it not exist? Now we know it's there. Um, so in talking about the the cryptids themselves, we're talking about the ones that, of course, haven't been they haven't been proven. These are things that people have claimed to have seen. Um, and what we found is that there are a lot of similarities uh, around the world. Um, you have, for example, you have what you would consider a banshee.
Mhm.
Can't, and it kind of goes into the question: is that a thing of folklore, or is that an actual cryptid? I mean, people have sworn they have heard these things shrieking in the night.
Oh, I'm sure they
You've
have.
got yeah, you've got that. In Europe, you've got the Bishin in Korea. Um, Same thing, wailing spirit. You've got La Llorona uh, you know in Mexico, Central America. You've got all of that. And next week, I would actually love to give the talk on La Llorona. Next week is actually a very iconic week in the Mexican culture. And I want to do some dispelling of some of
That would
uh,
be awesome.
the lore behind that.
Yeah.
Um, so in looking at some of the other cryptids, you have some similarities. For example, one of the most prominent ones, you've got Bigfoot, aka Sasquatch, aka the Yeti. Um, you also have the one that doesn't get mentioned as much, and that's the Wendigo. So the Wendigo, and here's where we start diving into the different kinds. So the Wendigo is a it's a mythical creature. Obviously, it's a malevolent spirit, and it does come from the Algonquin uh, side of the country. We'll put it that way. The Algonquin indigenous peoples, particularly in the Great Lakes region and up there in the north. So,
Mhm.
um, this is a malevolent spirit that comes from a legend of cannibalism. So you have greed, you have insatiable hunger, you have selfishness, and it's often depicted as an emaciated, gaunt, human-like figure with glowing eyes and long claws. And it's primarily associated with winters. So the more you go into the description of it, or the more you get into uh, what they imagine it looks like, it's more than likely going to be something that is either white or like light grayish. You would assume, um, and it's associated with like starvation, and it serves as a cautionary tale to emphasize community and discourage excessive self-interest, especially during times of hardship. And wouldn't we know it, our country is in a state of hardship where greed is rampant. Um, but that's another talk for another time. So the legend uh, originates, as I said, from the northern area. So the Algonquin, the Cree, and other related tribes. And it's a symbol of the horrors of winter famine and the potential for humanity to turn on itself. Uh, the most common origin story involves a person. These were I'm going to try to take from memory here. Um, this was a particular group of tribesmen who were out hunting. Um, they faced a very harsh winter. They faced a really harsh situation, and what resulted was that there was murder. They were not able to get back to their tribe, back to their home, and one of them began killing and eating the other members of the tribe. Well, this caused him so much turmoil that he began to transform. He transformed into this very strange, very horrific creature. And so it's an allegory for, being overcome by the spirit of greed and eventually transforming. I mean, when you become a greedy person, you do transform. You may not
Yeah, you do.
always transform physically, but you do become a completely different person. So um, there's that insatiable hunger, but in this legend, it's an overwhelming insatiable hunger for human flesh. So the features of the Wendigo, it's a lot of recounts say that it has glowing eyes, glowing red eyes, long sharp claws, and sometimes antlers. So um, here's where you can kind of get that image, and I know the image floats around of this like giant beast that has like the skull of a deer and it has the antlers. That's kind of what it goes with. So um, it's again symbolizing the desperation and harsh realities of survival, particularly in the northern wilderness. Um, and it's a strong warning against anything that's dealing with greed, dealing with cannibalism, with taboo, or anything that is taboo in many cultures. Um, and it reinforces the importance of community over individual survival at any cost. Um, it's often used to teach children about the importance of this. And today it still kind of goes on. Like I said, it's not really talked about much, but um, looking for it, doing a little bit of research on it, you'll find that it actually does show up. Sometimes it'll be a cryptid in a horror movie or in pop culture. I mean, um, once again portrayed in a monstrous entity of the wilderness. Um, the version that I know as a nerd, here's where the nerdy witch comes in. There is a version of this story and this character in the Marvel comics.
Hmm.
Um, Anybody who follows the story of the X-Men, anybody who knows the Wolverine and his time in the North, he does come across this creature, this enemy that is the Wendigo. If you follow the background of the comic book version, it almost mirrors the actual tradition. So that's one point where I'm proud to be a Marvel fan because I know that in the early stages they were actually doing their research. They were doing the research to make sure that they actually conveyed um, accurate portrayals or as accurate as they could go. Keeping in mind that it wasn't always their story to tell, but it's there. The essence of it is there. So um, by comparison, you have this ginormous creature that is terrorizing through the woods. You also have Bigfoot. We all know Bigfoot. And then you have further south, you have these creatures that are also showing up in local legend. These are the El Cuatlacas. Uh, Funny name, El Cuatlacas. That one comes from Tamaulipas, and it's also described as this hairy, tree-felling humanoid. You also have in Belize and Honduras, you have the Sisimito. And this one actually does also walk upright, and it's kind of like a gorilla-like creature. with long hair. So I like to joke about it and say, listen, anytime you guys get that picture, it's probably just one of my uncles. He's walking around shirtless. That's really all there is to it. I mean, come on, we're big in my family. Some of us are hairy. It's probably just one of us. Just leave us alone.
I would definitely be
We're good.
in my house.
So.
Yeah.
All right. So here's where we're going to take a break from the cryptids and look at the culture, or look at the folklore. Gwen, I know you've got one that you can absolutely inform us about.
Yeah, I do. I got Baba Yaga, but one more point on Wendigo. I remember somewhere when I think I was doing Native American studies, and I had a teacher, and he was Native American, and I seem to remember that Wendigos were associated with large windstorms also, and I don't mean because of the name, but like they would create like this imbalance in the air, and I don't remember the rest of that, but that was what I like in my mind. I always connect the two. But
that makes sense, because if you think about the origin story, this was a time where they were desperate, and it makes sense that a huge storm would have caused them to get lost, to almost freeze to death. So that it does make sense.
Oh yeah. So. And I have a Donner Party story sometime. We could talk about that.
Gotcha.
But what we were talking about, what we were just mentioning is Baba Hari. Oh, sorry, I was thinking Baba Hari Das, the incense dude. Baba Yaga. See, I sell incense. What can I say? Baba Yaga, who is not a cryptid, but she's very prominent in Slavic folklore, specifically Russian folklore. And she was theoretically like a supernatural witch, but not this kind of witch, unless you think of me as a hag, which is okay if you do. I don't mind. Anyway, she was a hag associated with the forest, and she was not typically like cryptozoology. She was a human, but sort of human. But she had kind of some of the characteristics of the folklore of monsters, like she ate children, which is never a good thing if you're a child. And she would dwell in a house on chicken legs that would kind of move around, I think. So I feel like basically she is somebody that is in fairy tales and legends. She is sort of a magical being, supernatural, very powerful witch, but she is not like a natural, like a yeti or something that is like coming from nature. So she is more of a she's not cryptid, like she's a legend, not probably a hairy beast that we still haven't discovered in the forest, like a yeti. There we go. Her origins are obviously more towards like a moral lesson, like a fairy tale has moral lessons usually. She's probably Baba Har. Oh my God, I can't stop today. The Baba Yaga is probably like Hansel and Gretel, the witch in the woods that was eating children. That's probably a Baba Yaga story. I think that would be pretty close to that. She's terrifying. She's somebody that you could seek wisdom and guidance from, and magical gifts, which but you have to also know, like, there's a cost if you go to a witch in the forest and seek for magical gifts. She's iconic, like, again, depicted with a chicken hut on legs that walks around and travels by flying mortar and pestle. I mean, it's there's some very significant things that Baba Yaga does. And she is somebody that's transitioning. She symbolizes transformation, and she challenges you to personal growth in the story. So she's a very interesting, very iconic figure. And if you've ever read Hansel and Gretel, most of us remember Hansel and Gretel, the two kids in the gingerbread house. There's a big crossover between Baba Yaga and Hansel and Gretel. And then, of course, there's all kinds of things. I think we're going to talk a little bit about Nessie. and some of those
Well,
critters.
just out of curiosity, do you have anything around the shop that actually depicts her? Do you sell anything that is affiliated with Baba Yaga?
I don't know. I'd have to go and look, but there's probably something in the shop that has. I'm trying to think of what, because I didn't really like think that through ahead of time. But we've always had, like, things like the evil eye things to ward off evil spirits, and and there's probably a number of books that refer to Baba Yaga. There's I certainly have some myths and legends books, and I've got a whole library that way that I know that we have a legend library in the back, so there's probably at least one book that refers to Baba Yaga. And
Gotcha.
of course, we have a lot of incense referring to Baba Hari Das. Who's whatever is Sri Baba. Not Baba Hari Das, but I can't, my brain is just not functional.
Let's just go. Let's just go ahead and say that that's Baba Yaga's nicer sister.
Oh, must be, yeah. I mean, I was doing this with two phones to get the website back. The GoDaddy was talking to Just Host, like this is my day, two phones. So yeah, there's a lot of Baba Yaga stuff in and around, and certainly any fairy tale book is gonna probably carry at least one reference to Baba Yaga, if not by name, but for sure, candy bread houses for Hansel and Gretel. That is a Baba Yaga story, even if it's not exactly called Baba Yaga. But if you've ever read the Grimm Hansel and Gretel,
Once again, you guys, please, if you have this frail old lady as your neighbor, please don't tell the kids that's Baba Yaga. That's really mean. That's kind of mean.
If she does start to look like your children are tasty, get her like a steak dinner or something. Just saying.
I mean, it can be a great scare tactic, and Mexicans have been using that for ages. It's like, okay, you want to go get the lady next door? She'll get you and she'll put you to sleep. Okay. So,
cautionary tales. You weren't much better.
Yeah. So, all right. So,
yeah.
Okay, so we've got North America so far. We've touched a little bit on the South. We've touched the Slavic regions. Now we're going to head over to Africa. Believe it or not, yes, you mentioned Nessie. Everybody knows Nessie, the quote unquote water horse, the one that shows up in Loch Ness.
I've been to Loch Ness.
So yes,
didn't see Nessie, but I looked.
Right. So yes, you've got that iconic dinosaur-looking image. You've got that dinosaur-looking cryptid. The one that doesn't get mentioned is the cousin that's over in the Congo.
Yeah, and there is one here somewhere too in the East Coast, but I can't think of the name of the lake. You know that, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I do not. Sorry, I'm hoping I do not butcher the name. I really apologize to the whole of Africa. Mokele Mbembe. Mokele Mbembe.
That sounds pretty close.
I hope so. I hope so. Please forgive me. This is a cryptid. First of all, the meaning of the name is one who stops the flow of rivers. And this comes from the Lingala language. It's given the name to a large water-dwelling cryptid found in legends and folklore of the Congo River Basin. Now, they sometimes describe this as a living creature, and sometimes they describe it as a spirit. It could be considered loosely related to Nessie in the Western culture. And what makes this a cryptid is the fact that several expeditions have been mounted in the hope of finding evidence of this creature. Unfortunately, it's all but without success. So it's once again a long-necked swamp-dwelling creature, um, and local, well, some local folklore suggests that it's real. It's a territorial herbivore that can act aggressively if approached. That can be considered, and this is where it gets kind of muddled because that's often the case with a lot of natural wildlife. Um, and we're going to see what they actually compare these to. So, excuse me. So it, at this point, has no scientifically confirmed evidence of existence, but um, it's very it's very strange because considering what I've just described. It has that long neck. It's in rivers, so a lot of times it's actually more closely resembling elephants or a rhinoceros or other simple known animals. In fact, there was a Discovery Channel documentary called Congo that was released in 2001. In that documentary, um, these journalists they interviewed a number of tribe members who identified a photograph as being this Mokele Mbembe. The photograph was that of a rhinoceros. So that's where it kind of gets, like I said, kind of gets muddled. But the strange thing is, neither species of African rhinoceros is common in that area. And that, once again, is the Congo Basin. So it may be a mixture of mythology and folk memory from a time when rhinoceros actually were found in the area. So it once again raises the question of, what was actually seen, what when was it seen, what were the conditions. So um, so is it a creature that resembles a dinosaur, or is it something that somebody just mistook uh, for being this strange creature, but it was actually just a living thing that was just something else. So there is that. That is we'll call that our African um, Nessie-like cryptid. I don't think it'd be fair to call it an African Nessie, but a Nessie-like cryptid. So, um, and just really quick, we're gonna hop over from Africa. So now we're kind of jumping around the world here. That's a wonderful thing. We're going from there over to Japan. Japan has some weird stuff going on over there. I'll tell you that.
Oh
So
yeah.
there's one of the ones that really kind of stood out. And once again, thanking our garage goblin for this one. I didn't know this actually was a thing until she told me. So this one's called the kappa, and of course it's probably pronounced differently in Japan. But so this one is more like I guess you could consider it more like a gnome,
Mm.
or something that's part of the Fae. Um, what sets this apart is that this is a mischievous humanoid water dwelling creature. So there's also that element of water. Um, it's from the Japanese folklore. Its power is contained in the water-filled bowl-shaped indentation on its head. So these little things walk around, they're causing all kinds of mischief, and they walk around with like these bowls right on their head. So um, they're portrayed as greenish, scaly creatures about the size of a child. They have webbed hands and feet and a turtle-like shell on their back. So,
Sounds almost like they're related to mermaids on some level,
right. Excuse me. Go.
which are also cryptids,
So,
by the way.
yes. So these creatures have their strength and the life force that comes from the water in once again in on its head. So if the water is spilled, the creature is severely weakened and it may actually die. And of course, they kind of explore this a little bit further. So if a human comes across this mischievous creature, the way that they can actually appeal to it and not have any mischief happen, they can easily defeat it by exploiting its deep sense of politeness. This is a polite cryptid. So, um, so if a person bows, and we know the Asian tradition, if a person bows to the kappa, the creature feels compelled to bow back, causing the water to spill from its head. Uh, so the deeper the bow, the weaker the creature actually gets. And that'll prevent it.
Wow.
Exactly. Just be polite. This creature will be polite back. Um, quite different from the Wendigo. You bow, that thing will kill you. So, okay, so the kappa's behavior actually ranges from minor pranks, like it can be a little pervy. It'll look up the kimonos, or it can be a little bit more, more violent. They will drown people. They will drown animals. Now, for some reason, like I said, Japanese kind of throw strange little characteristics in there. These creatures are believed to be fond of cucumbers and, for some reason, sumo wrestling.
Why does that tie into looking up the skirt of a kimono? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
I just tied the fondness of cucumbers to kimonos. Never mind. My mind got very naughty today.
I'm pretty sure they have pretty naughty intentions as well. So
yeah, I'm sure.
So, while these were once feared as like these dangerous monsters, these dangerous, little goblins, gargoyles, however you want to call them, modern depictions, particularly in art such as anime, manga, any of that, they portray the kappa as more comical and friendly. So that's how it's kind of developed over the years. Probably where the love of sumo wrestling came from. That's one to be explored a little bit further. So that kind of brings us back to where we are at this point. And there are a few others that we didn't quite go into. We want to keep this one a little bit shorter. Excuse me. But they are going to get mentioned. And the way they're going to approach that is discussing them as spirit guides. What can you tell us about using cryptids versus, using animal totems or spirit animals, power animals? What can you tell us about approaching these iconic creatures?
Well, I can tell you that there are modern practitioners that like to explore their use as spirit guides. Mostly people connect with animals, well-known animals. Um, it's not necessarily a recognized practice, but personal use is influenced by what you know, right? So people will connect with these archetypes. For instance, if you think of it as like a parallel realm, or something that's a little more esoteric, it's kind of an interesting way of having a spirit guide. Bigfoot represents untamed wildness and deep primal connection to the forest. Maybe represents a desire to understand, or a hidden realm, or to live more privately, solitary, away from society. Mothman, Mothman's interesting to me, and they're associated with foresight and warnings. Could be also a connection, like with angels. Like people sometimes associate that. The ability to navigate times of crisis or transition. The guide may appear to be to those who are in need, or to get pay closer attention to omens. Um, During like a period of significant change. The Jersey Devil, representing a complex mix of heritage, legend, chaos, and it can be somebody who feels misunderstood and wanted to master their inner chaotic energy. The Loch Ness monster, that's symbolizing deep and hidden mysteries of the subconscious, the vast unknown world beneath the surface. A nested guide might aid someone on a journey into deep introspection and shadow work. The chupacabra, I like saying it like that. That's anyway. The chupacabra represents the life force and the protection and the ability to survive in harsh conditions. It may be called upon for strength and resilience during challenging times. You also have like various different researching, learning from cryptids who have the history and characteristics. They can offer insight into what symbolizes, what symbols you might be needing to guide you. You also have, visualizing, connecting with cryptid guides, visualizing its habitat and its appearance, and to, being open to signs and messages you might receive. Unicorns, spirit guides, magical, playful. Rituals and offerings. People choose to leave rituals and offerings when you're working with cryptid type specific location, like Loch Ness or maybe the Jersey Pine Barrens. People do automatic writing, channeling thoughts to a message. You probably connect with Baba Yaga like that if you're Russian, kind of, work with what would you say to me, uh, dream work, setting an intention before you go to sleep. You can maybe reveal some interesting messages. Journaling, writing down your dreams. This can also help you recognize patterns if you're trying to communicate with the cryptid. I don't necessarily recommend trying to communicate with the cryptid, but there's nothing inherently strange about it, so you can definitely do something like that. You always want to protect your energy, and you always want to respect folklore, and those are things you want to do. So there's definitely that aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, just just two really quick points. I mean, honestly, there's also a few other icons out there. You mentioned unicorns. A lot of people love to use dragons.
Dragons is very symbolic, and they're supposed to represent wisdom. And you know what is interesting about dragons? Tell me a culture that doesn't have a dragon. There's a relationship between like the phoenix, thunderbird, and dragons. There's dragons in Wales. There's dragons all through Europe. There are dragons in Asia. There are dragons pretty much everywhere. And I would say, looking at the enormous bones of various different dinosaurs, we don't really know what they look like. And could some of them have flown? Well, that's a possibility, yeah. And were some still possibly alive on our planet because we hadn't destroyed them as when humans first arrived. Oh, sure. Maybe there are still something. I mean, I think a big dragon would be pretty noticeable, but I'm not so sure they weren't around when, within human memory on some level.
Yeah,
Because every culture has dragons.
that's right.
And
That's right.
if something does fly, it can migrate. And
Yep.
so if it had wings and it flew, it could be on any continent and basically could have been everywhere. And there is a point to that. Now, I want to put up on the screen something, Joe. You don't know this, but it just so happens that I happened across this. Well, I didn't intend to be watching a show on cryptids this week, but in my television viewing at home, my spouse happened to watch this. This is the Cryptoid Chronicles.
Oh,
And
nice.
I want to say it's on Apple TV, but I think we saw it on Netflix. So I'm leaving it up there long enough for people to just write it down. It was on Netflix, and it was actually pretty good, and it covered quite a lot of the things we just talked about, and it had a good comparison on those. It was well done, I thought, and I spent time watching it, and I thought this is funny because we're going to talk about cryptids this week.
Nice.
So these things go bump in the night. They're strange. They're cryptids. They, know.
Yeah.
And I thought this is kind of like perfect, and I had this ready to go for you, as you can see, because cryptids play a huge role in our mythology. I mean, from the abominable snowman right on down the line.
Oh, yes.
Yeti. That's all every culture. And if you think about Yeti, you could imagine that some of the great apes could have easily been considered Yetis. There are possibilities that it could be an enormous bear, but we don't know. But they seem to be intelligent, which leads me to believe they're probably, probably in the primate family, most of them. But that does not mean that they are not super intelligent. Like, I don't know, but I don't know so much about it. Do I think that everybody's cousin that lives somewhere has seen it somewhere? No, probably not. But there is actually a local Bigfoot legend in Santa Cruz County, and there's a Bigfoot store here. If you go up to, I think it's in Ben Lomond, but there's a Bigfoot store here because there were people that saw Bigfoots in this area. It's this teeny hole in the wall store. It's a Bigfoot museum, and they've got this little tiny store. It's tiny, like your bathroom might be bigger. It's really, really a small store, but it's cute, and they have a lot of local Bigfoot legends.
Nice.
I've been there. So.
Awesome. There's one tiny account that actually comes to mind. And it kind of blurs the line between the lines between belief and concrete evidence, and once again the culture versus an actual sought after icon. And that's I don't remember whose story this was. I remember it was at one of the Pantheacons where someone talked about how they had come across Fae.
Mm-hmm.
They had come across Fae in and around the event. Excuse me. And I remember just kind of overhearing the story that they had been able to communicate with them, and they were wondering how they actually were circumnavigating all of the concrete of the area, all of the buildings. And I distinctly remember them saying that the response from the Fae was, "What buildings?" So the way that it's a strange thing to consider their point of view from the cryptid side, from the folk legends side. What does our world look like to them?
That's an interesting thought. I do have a fairy story. Um, Robert Perala is a pretty good friend of mine, and he's up in the UFO community. He does a lot of talks, and he held a group at our store for a long time, and he told this story quite consistently of seeing a little blue, kind of looked like a little being, fly from one end of his kitchen into his refrigerator, and I mean into it like through the door, and just
Mhm.
disappear. And the man that he was there with was somebody he was helping do caretaking for, who had been he was Dutch, and he had been a soldier in World War II, and he had been captured in the Philippines. And the guy burst out, "Oh, tink, tink, tinker, there's a Tinkerbell!" And Robert had seen it too. And anyway, he said that he burst into tears afterwards because when he was being held in the Philippines in prison camps by the Japanese,
Mhm.
because it was war at the time, and they were all starving, that he would follow these little blue lights in the forest while they were like out building, because they had them in work camps, and he would follow them to edible mushrooms, and he survived eating
Mm.
because of these beings, and he busted
Wow.
out in tears, and he had like this conversation around it, and they never saw the fairy again, but it was something that was so like huge in his world that this had happened in his kitchen. These are stories you hear, and he told it very consistently for 10 years. It was, people go, "Oh, tell the fairy story," and he never changed the story. So I do believe that he saw something.
Oh yeah.
Some people see things
So,
that, and someone else was there to see them with you. That's kind of better.
to validate it, yeah,
Yeah,
that's huge. So
that is huge.
now the question for the ages. So, and talking about the cryptids, and we'll wrap it up with the excuse me, with the stone of the week.
Mhm.
Um, but our garage goblin came up with this very, very good point. And the question is, and you guys please let us know in the comments what you think. Here's the question, if you guys are ready for it. Is Santa Claus a cryptid? He's not local legend. He's confirmed like legends all around the world, or mostly around the world. Um, yes, there's so much iconography behind that. There's so many legends,
Oh,
but
and they track him. NORAD tracks him.
they track him. They track him. Kids are always waiting. They're always trying to stay awake, trying to get a picture of him, time to talk to him. By definition, he is hunted. So, does that actually
Yes.
make him a cryptid? So, let us know what you guys think. Please let us know. Now,
But
when?
that's coming too. Well, I think we should all stay up and see if we can see who's getting those ashes out of our chimney on our way down. He could
That's
be
true.
he could have started his life as a chimney sweep.
Maybe.
Oh,
All
very
right.
good.
So, what have we got? What have we got today for our stone of the week?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to put up a couple of pictures here. I have labradorite. I may have mentioned labradorite before, but I like me a lab because labradorite is a very gentle, nice stone. It has a very calming energy. It can go all the way from like this color to let me go over to some of these where it's a more of a blue color. And this is on our website pretty much right about now, which is, by the way, up and running again. Yes, I think I said that before. I just want to drive that home. My website is working again, 4 hours on the phone. I'm very happy. Anyway, labradorite has mystical and protective qualities. It is one of those stones that is very much a gentle healing stone. People love it. It feels good. It banishes fears and insecurities. It's good for relaxation, de-stressing, and so on. It has some protective stones in that it gets rid of unwanted energies. It sort of gives you a barrier to negativity, and it helps to initiate you into the mysteries. Now, one of the reasons why it's associated with that is it has that kind of like cat's eye iridescent quality where there seems to be more in the layers of what you're looking at. See, you add this again. Do you see how it has this kind of like there's so much refraction, and this is a particularly nice piece. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you in this stone. This is also a lab. Now, you're not going to get the flash that you get from some stones because of the way that it's it's the lighting in here isn't good. But if you hold this one up to the daylight outside, it is particularly nice. This one comes from Madagascar, and I think I have it before. It's relatively inexpensive too. This one is $128, and we have it on our bookshelf where you get a little bit of it. It's a good little bookend. It stands up on. It's got a nice little flash. See how? Oh, there's the flash. See that flash?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you look at it and you see the qualities, it kind of pulls you in. It kind of makes you feel like it's a bit mystical because it has this iridescent sort of. It's layered. It's like it's not just a flat surface. It's got this kind of it pulls you in kind of feeling, and it's nice to put a labradorite is enough, and it's not an expensive stone, so you can get a ball, you can get it in a bookend, you can put it somewhere in your room, and you can get a pretty good chunk of it now. We do carry those on our website. If I look in our, we've got points, we've got big pieces, we've got some palm stones. If you're not local, you can get a palm stone for around $15-16 on our website. It is labradorite. So there's some pretty good options. I don't carry a lot of big rocks on my website because it doesn't they're hard to ship, so. But I particularly like this piece. This is in the store. If you called me up and said you wanted to buy it, I would ship it to you. I would miss it though.
Yeah. All right. So that's going to do it for this week. Tune in next week when, like I said, we're going to be doing the talk on La Llorona, and it's going to be the justice for the weeping woman. There's a lot of iconography there, and like I said, next week is, if I remember correctly, it's a major week for the Mexican culture. So it's going to be an eye opener. For those that know the legend, maybe some of those that don't, it's going to be a powerful one. So hopefully you guys tune in next week. You guys can catch us over on YouTube. You guys can catch us over on Avalon Visions. So just please keep on going with us. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. And we love you guys. Again, we encourage you to reach out to us. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about. Let us know what you guys want us to cover. All right. And I think that's about it. So we will see you guys again next week.
That's awesome. Take care, and don't forget to shop on Avalon Visions or avalonvisionsproducts.com. And we're waiting for you to send us in and send us a call or send us an order and help us sell you more labradorite.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Guys next week.